Good morning, Rabbi Sai. We're going straight to the videotape. Still in the Shiva of Rabbi Chaim. So another Moirdik video. It's only 5 seconds or 10 seconds long. And there he talks, raise the volume really loud. And the guy with the coffee, maybe we could stop for a second. And here we go. You ready?
האם כדאי שבחור ילמד דף היומי, או שזה מיועד רק לבעלי בתים?
כדאי.
מה זה?
כדאי.
All right, so it's kedai for yeshiva bacher to learn Daf Yomi. Now, I want to show you, I have to read this email. We have something very interesting today. 3 pictures from the same kind of thing, but it's a long email. I cannot read the whole thing. I read the whole thing twice, but I'm going to read to you just parts and pieces. It's from Elliot Mattingly from Boston, Massachusetts. He says that he went to Harvard Business School, and having spent 2 years in Harvard Business School, I feel qualified to say that a business school case is intellectual finger painting relative to what one experiences on a daily basis when doing the daf. And then he goes on to say, because he didn't have a background, a yeshiva background, and he goes back to that, and he says, tragedy struck our family when our first child, a beautiful baby girl, was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. He spent 222 consecutive nights in Boston Children's Hospital, and he says that it's enough to batter the mental health of the strongest of people. But he was able to accomplish something positive every day by doing the daf that benefited not just myself, but also I'm skipping around there, but also my family. The camaraderie of MDY appealed to me, and I could feel the energy in the shir. And then he says that MDY is saying Tehillim for his daughter, Elisha V'chano Chaya Bas Aviva Orly. There's still a fair amount in shir that flies over my head, but if I'm able to take away something new each day, I'm confident I will eventually be able to fully learn with the rest of the community. To those like myself who didn't receive a Jewish education growing up, but want to learn Gemara, you're not alone. Do not let the language barrier intimidate you and get on the bandwagon. You'll be glad you did. And then he says, in closing, I want to share the event which prompted me to reach out to Moshe Hirsch in the first place. Moshe Hirsch runs the Orhe Merkaz, which I think there's over 2,000 people on it or so. It's the weekly newsletter of MDY. Last week, we were blessed with a son whose bris was this past Tuesday. Attached is a picture with me, of me with little Chaim Oren catching up on the daf when he's just a few days old and we're still in the hospital. It's my hope he'll grow up with the access to all Jewish educational opportunities I lacked, so he will not face the same challenges I do. As you can see below, we're starting him off early. Thanks again for all you do. Elliot Mattingly, Boston, Massachusetts. So I want to show you here. Go to this picture right over here. This is Elliot and his son. Do you see it? You don't have anything. Oh, you know why? Maybe, hold on. Yeah, I got to go here. Hold on. How about this? That's better. What's up with you today? Avi, everything upseder? Okay, because I hear more of you than myself. Hold on. Now, the next picture. Yeah, it's going too quick. Here he is. Avi. A little quieter today. Thanks. Thank you so much. Never thought I'd be learning with my newborn instead of doing nonsense. Here's another father who is doing the daf. It's flickering. We need that thing. And now a third father sent it all in one day. Rabbi Zai, Danny Gruen. I don't know. I forgot the guy's name. I apologize. Maybe also you can put it on the screen. Baruch Hashem just had a new baby boy. Thank you. Learning the daf in Hadassah Hospital. 3 in 1 day. Learning Torah in the hospital. They're all boys. All boys. So real quickly, maybe I'll show you this because we're on a roll here. Can we go to the next screen? Here, this one. I don't know if you see this or not, and I'm going to a video. Gerish and everything Beseder up there? Maybe Avi Factor could help you out. Avi, why don't you go upstairs and help him out a little bit?
Gary, you need help?
Instead of get over there.
Don't ask. I told you to go over there. Go over there. You'll be the first one kicked out in the middle of a shir, Avi. Everything beseder? Okay. So this is a group of guys from. Here he goes again. Avi, do me a favor. Help him out. There's 14 guys, Israeli guys, the cool guys that don't want to come to our siyumim. They're too cool for our siyumim, but they learned the Masechta with us, and they were promised by what's his name? Kitov. Yishai, what's his last name? Sunray, thank you. Yishai or Sunray. Sorry, Sunray. It's terrible names. He said to these 14 guys that if you learn the Masechta with us, Chagiga, I am going to take you to. You remember this? Here we go. Look at this video. And he took all 14. This is not posed. This is a real video right here on the bus. That's why I love this video. They're all learning the daf on the bus. It's a little long. Maybe we could skip ahead. They went for first. Look at their faces crying. Look at that guy, look at that guy, look at him. That sunray on the right bottom corner. He raised thousands of dollars to get these guys to learn the Masechta. And they went to the table, came right back there to Sol. They stayed just for, less than 24 hours. They went to some soifer in the middle of the night. Look at them, that's Gingy, that's my barber, the guy on the left. Nathan, they call him Gingy. Here he is, Gingy, here he is. All right. That guy on the top left is Kitov. Givaldik, Rabbi Isai, Kol Hakavod. Sunray, what did I call him? Rabbi Isai, here we are. We are a couple lines down in Daf Yud. That's today's daf. Sponsors, we're not there yet. The anonymous sponsor for the koilel, somebody else. Zechus of Hillel ben Sardina, Rivka Basfega, this should be Zechus, Tzirel Farkovits, Shauly Rosenfeld, in memory of my dear friend Yehuda Augenbaum, also that 19-year-old kid who donated $2,600 in honor of his friend. By the Lock Lebovic families, Lakewood as a Zechus for our families. Jonathan Davydov, remind me, Yosef, please. I need to read a very important email that has to do with something that we just read here. Jonathan Davydov, it's an anonymous one, the one that you forwarded to somebody. John Davydov, that's Hatzlachah of Davydov family. Paras HaChodesh, friends and family, rafua Shlema, Yaakov, Yehuda, Ben Gittel. Happy birthday to our wife and mother, Tzirel Farkovits. May today's learning be Zechus for her and the whole family. Avrohom, Yisroel Dov, and Zelig Farkovits. The Shermans of KGH, Nishmas, our grandfather and great-grandfather, on the occasion of his yahrzeit Rabbi Yisroel, Chaim ben Shemarihu, Rabbi Irving Dropkin. Moshe Steinberg in honor of Ballerena, Yaya, and Yomi. The trying competition for the Zechariah to pass his driver's test. Everybody say everybody together. He should pass his driving. Okay, amen. Lila Nishmas. We never had such kavanah. Not for the Lila Nishmas, not for the four Shlemas. He should pass his driver's test. Lila Nishmas Dvoyer Chano Bas Menachem Mendel. A shout out. I hope this is Corpus Christi from Texas. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for a wonderful vacation. Love, Ben. Zok Daily Gemara. What? I read worse. It's true. Thanks for sticking that in there. There is one more sponsor. Somebody sponsored for the whole month, $2,600. A crazy story. I don't have the wording because it went to the wrong person. But basically, they went to Rabbi Druk from Bnei Brak, Chavrusa of Rabbi Chaim, a young guy, and he said, we want you to be maspid, we want you to say something to Hillam for Rabbi Chaim. literally on the spot, a minute later, he had a massive heart attack, and he's just came out of the hospital. He needs a big refuah, and a big chassid of his is sponsoring for his refuah shlema. So you should, I don't know his name, refuah shlema for Rabbi Druk from Bnei Brak. Zok the Gemara. So we're just talking about the Aseres HaShvatim, and they're all these different cities, and somebody wanted to tie it that Mushchi is Muski, is Moscow, whatever, that now it's going to be that all the Russians are all Jewish. Fine. I don't believe it, but that's what one of the guys wanted to tie it. All these places, since they have Yishkoyach Menachem Seltzer, look at this new Nachman Seltzer, I mean. Thank you, Kitov Nachman. Yeah, if anybody, give me that so I don't. And Nachman Seltzer's new book, Yishkoyach, for the inscription. I didn't read it yet. Whoa. From Constantine, from Ramat Aaron, not Ramat Aaron. No, Ramat Al-Hanan. You see, if you make mistakes, don't fix it. From Shar Yoshev Colony, from the train to Passaic, from Camp Moyers, from Ponevezh, from Tifrach, and from Chicago, from Bnei Yeshivas and RBS, we finally grew up to become, who finally grew up to become, I'm not going to read the rest, Yedidas Nachman. Says the Gemara, at the end of the day, all these people, all these Aseres HaShvatim apostles, so says Rashi, something fascinating, not everybody agrees with him, but why are they apostles? The Mamzerim, says Rashi, not because of who they are, but because of what they did afterwards. Because the Aseres HaShvatim, they were misboiled. They went. Think about it. They go to America, in the 40s. What happens? Look what happened to the Yidden that came there. A lot of them, and that's what happened. But even worse, Rashi says they were marrying brothers, were marrying sisters. I have to stop for a second. Rabbi Delinsky is here. He made a chassan last night. Unbelievable. He's here. Kol hakavod. Yishkoyach mazel tov. So let's go. The Kulan of Sul, but because of this terrible things that they were doing, they're apostle. Says Gemara, Kamrita Kamei de Shmuel, Omarli. Bincha habomana Yisroel is kori bincha. So for this, we must go to the chart. If I could get there before Gary gets there, it would be great, but no. Here. I could or I can't. You're there? This is the chart. So there's two psukim, Gimel and Daled, right? One after the other. And it says, like the Schatem Bam Rashi brings, I'm just saying over Rashi, Bitcha le'siten livnoi, u'bita le'sikach levinecha. So the Torah is telling us, do not let your son marry a non-Jew, don't let your daughter marry a non-Jew. Then the Torah goes on to say, Ki Yasser is bincha. Who's Ki Yasser? Who's this referring to? Ki Yasser. One of the two of the pasuk before, and that is that the non-Jew is going to take your grandson, bincha, your grandson, and veer him off the way to Avodah Zara. But what does the Torah call him? Bincha. We all know this. Ask anybody, what makes a Jew? If the mother is Jewish, how do we know that? This pasuk right here. Ki yasis bincha macharai. The guy she marries, the non-Jew that she marries, will take him off the derech. It doesn't say it about the non-Jewish woman that your son marries from pasuk Gimel. Ignores that part. Pasuk Dalet is only talking about one of the two cases, and that is that a kid that comes from a Jewish mother, even though the father is not Jewish. There's the famous Mariel Gazi, who says that it depends. He says, we said it once in the past, that depends if the mother acts like a Jew or not, depends how they bring up the kid. If they bring him up with Christmas and all that, then he's a guy, and if with Hanukkah, then it's a Yid. Famous Marit Al-Ghazi. Fine. Says Gemara. If it comes from, if the mother is non-Jewish, then the kid is not a Jew. Lakewood, Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky, and his Shiva, Seva Maisa. There's a guy that came to Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky and said that they need a refuah for somebody. So they said, what's the person's name? Adina. Something ben Adina. He said, Dina. Dina is the mother of Lavan. Can't get rid of the name. Do fine. So the guy that heard this, he had another friend that wasn't doing well. So he told his friend, well, your name is Adina, Ben Adina, you got to switch the name. So the guy said, well, before I switch, why? He said, Chaim Kanevsky, I heard in Maisa, Chaim Kanevsky. So he says, let me go to Chaim Kanevsky. Says, no, don't switch the name. Switch it to some. So he said, but what happened? I don't understand. You told the other guy, Adina. So he said, no. Then I said what HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in my mouth. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me this feeling. So his Einiko was there and he said, what about me? Should I also say things that just come into my mouth and I want to say them? So he said, if you have pure machshavas, you have nothing, no machshavas zaras in your head, then what comes out of your mouth is from Hashem. So you learn a couple of things here. You don't just do. If the name is Shira, 1,000% you got to switch your name according to Rabbi Chaim Kanevsky. That he never made any. Shira has to go. But Adina depends. Sometimes it's good because I forgot to say. He told the person Adina was Rachel's mother. It's the same person. It depends how you look at it. It's either Lavan or Rachel.
Lavan's wife.
Lavan's wife, Rachel's mother. Yeah. Zok Gemara. Very good. You're talking about Aseres HaShvatim, that all the men of Aseres HaShvatim don't count for anything because if they married Goyim, then the kids are Goyim. But what about the Aseres HaShvatim, the women that were from Aseres HaShvatim? We just said that they're considered Jews. Says Gemara, Gemiri Devenasa Dahudara, it's the Rui, it's the says Rashi, it's a lotion not of tsar, it's a lotion of getting ripped, popping. Their womb exploded, or it wasn't functional anymore. Once they had to travel and go to Golos, and by the time they got to whatever country they got to, we know we have a tradition, they didn't give birth, don't worry about it. There's no Jewish women who had relations with Goyim that had children. This is a tremendous chiddush. That Chachamim were geyser on these people and created something that didn't exist. They said, again, with the power of the Chachamim, they have a power to say, these people are non-Jews. In future generations, they are Jewish. If the Jewish woman marries a non-Jew, her child is a Yid today. In that generation, Chachamim went and said, they're all non-Jews. That's how we're going to pass it, and that's what they are. These Jewish women, they gave birth to Zarim. What's a Zar? Someone that's not part of Klal Yisrael. Says the Gemara, Yosef Rav Yosef Achor de Rav Kahana, Yosef Rav Kahana Kamed de Rav Yehuda, Yosef Ikam. Rav Yosef was saying, Asidin Yisrael da Avdi Yom Tavo. Klal Yisrael is going to make a yontif. Ki Charvei Tarmod. When Tarmud is going to be destroyed, there'll be a yontif. Why? Because as we learned yesterday, Tarmud has the slaves of Shlomo or the women of Yerushalayim. Whatever it is, it's a bunch of Jewish women who had relations with either the slaves of Shlomo or Goyim and produced mamzer. According to that mamzer. Says Gemara, what do you mean they're gonna make a yontif in the future? V'charev. We don't know of a yontif that happened yet, and they are destroyed. Says Gemara, Ayi Talmud have it. What was destroyed is not Tarmoid, it's Talmoid, something else. No, it is the same. What happened was it doubles up. You try to chop the head off from here, it grows from over there. They were never able to completely destroy Talmud or Tarmud, whatever you want to call it. They destroyed one area and it started populating from the other side. So in Mela, they couldn't make a yontif. Charev my gisa, is my gisa. They destroyed one side, they popped up from the other. Charev my gisa, is my gisa. Yazar Rav Nuna kamei the ula. V'kahabe b'shmaita. So Rav Nuna is bombing ula with questions and learning. Omar, so ula says, Mogavra. Look at this unbelievable Talmud Chacham. Look at his questions. However, ilav da harpanya masei. If not for the fact that it comes from Arpanya, which are a bunch of mamzerim. Just take a mamzer, this Rav Amnuna. He's a great Talmud Chacham, a little bit of a mamzer. Iksef, so he saw that Rav Amnuna was really embarrassed. So he took it back. He said, Kesef Gulgalta Lehecha Yahavis, where do you pay taxes to? Amalei Lepum Nahara. Not to Harpanya, I give it to Nahara. Amalei, you came Lepum Nahara. Some explain from the fact they saw that he has busha, so it's one of the simonim of a yid, of a kosher yid. So Ula took it back and he said, it goes by where you pay taxes. You're not from Harpanya, you're from Nahara, Pum Nahara. Okay, you're a good guy. My Harpanya. Why is it such a terrible place? He called him a mom. He didn't call him a mom. He said, look, you're apostle. Omar Abzeiro Har Shakal Poinenboy. If you don't have a shidduch, it's going shver and shidduchim, the shidduch crisis. So you go to Harpanya, because that's where there's a lot of people with psulim, and somebody will marry over there. It's easy to get a shidduch. It says in the Brisa, if you don't know exactly what your genealogy is, where you come from, you go. You don't know your yichus, you go over there. It's worse. Amuk over here doesn't literally mean deeper. It means it's not amuka where you get a shidduch from. Huh? You mean the guy that went there that doesn't have a good shidduch? He's also a shtickle on the same. They're not mamzerim. There's some mamzerim. There's a sfeikim mamzerim. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. I don't know exactly. He himself has issues. Just goes in there. Amuka. They say it doesn't work anymore. Amuka. Since they put up the mechitza, there's no more shidduchim there. V'amuka mishoyl. Shenemar miyad shoyl evdeim mimoves egoleim. So shoyl gehenim has a way out. Evdeim, I'll redeem them from Gehenim. Look, a yid, maximum 12 months. A lot of times, as we learned in the other Masechta, a little dip in, dip out. A flip on the barbecue grill for a minute, and then you go into Gan Eden. That's from Gehenim. Vilu psul. If a person is a mamzer, has a psul, they do less with takanta. There's no way out of it. There is actually, if we don't know who people are, then they don't. Because if you think about it. Let's say, I was thinking, like, if you have like 10,000 Aseres HaShvatim that were Mamzerim, so by our generation it'll be in the millions, right? They never go away. So they marry and all of so the entire Russia is Mamzerim, the entire, whatever you want to say, Muski, this, that, all of Iraq. But if you don't know who they are, so it becomes bottle. That's the halacha. Like, you don't have to be choishish for something like generations later. They physically, halachically, they become bottle. But a psul doesn't have a takana. If you know who it is, you know that their generation after generation mamzerim, there's no takana. Says the Gemara, psuli da harpanya. The mamzeris, where did the harpanya get the mamzeris from? Mishum psuli the Mishon. They're close by to Mishon city, so they got it from Mishon. Psuli the Mishon, Mishum psuli the Tarmid. And Mishon is close, they got it from Tarmid. Psuli the Tarmid, Mishum avdi Shloima. And Tarmid, as we said, you had the slaves of Shloima were very wealthy, and they forced the Jewish women to marry them. Behind the Amri Inchi, Kabaraba, Kabazuta, it doesn't matter what the psul is or the measurement is. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a large, it could be small. Migandev Azal Sha'il, it rolls into Sha'il. Umisha'il l'tarmad, l'tarmad l'meishon, l'meishon l'harpanya. Eventually, it works its way out to further away cities like Harpanya, which is the furthest from Sha'il. And with that, Rabbi Isai, Hadran Allah Chomesh Yisur Noshim, Hadran Allah Chomesh Yisur Noshim, Hadran Allah Chomesh Yisur Noshim. The very first Mishnah of Masechtas Yevamos, we learned about the 15 tzaros. You see, if you just started today, you started yesterday, brand new parak, you don't really need to know much, and if you're still struggling, you'll figure it out eventually. So, we have the 15 tzaros. These are the 15 women. The way okay, for the guy that just showed up today, the Torah says, let's see if we even have a pasuk here. Maybe I'm going to go away from this. No. Okay, we have the pasuk in a different place. If a person has a sister-in-law, he's not allowed to marry a sister-in-law. But there's an exception to the rule. If the sister-in-law becomes an almana, she loses her husband, and her husband, your brother, doesn't have children, then you're allowed to marry the sister-in-law. It's called yibum. She falls to you, the yibum. There are 15 women that if they fall to you, to Yibum, you cannot marry them. You cannot do Yibum. For instance, a very obvious one is your own daughter. If your daughter married her uncle, your brother, and that brother passes away, so you're not going to be miyabim your own daughter. But not only that, you cannot be miyabim your daughter's co-wife, the tzara. Says the Mishnah, one of the 15 things that we learned was Keitzad, Eishes Achiv Shalei Haya Ba'alama. The case of a brother who was born after the death of his brother. So, if we look at the pasuk here, it says, Ki yeshvu achim yachtav. This is the pasuk of Yibum. If the brothers are living, they're sitting together, yachtav, together, and one of the brothers dies, and he doesn't have a child. So then the pasuk goes on to say that the brother that's alive should marry the brother who's dead's wife. Okay. But it has to be yeshvu, as the Gemara is going to say. They have to be together. You want to learn from Yachtav, that's your thing. But the Gemara says from the word yeshvu. They're sitting, they were together in the world, they were alive together in the world. But what happens in this case, right over here, this chart took a very, very long time to make, and Be'ezer Hashem, these are the charts are going to look a little bit more like this. A lot of help from our artist, our in-house artist, Yoshi. Over here you have who did all the designs and everything, besides the M and the B and what I did later on, and Shni and Rishayin. Fine. You have over there Reuven and Shimon, the two brothers, the Baldwin brothers. They're brothers because they're bald. And you also have the little child who's a bald kid. He's also one of the brothers. What happened was, step number one, if we go with this, step number one, let me see if I could turn on my laser. Go over here. Let's see if it works. No, I don't got laser here. So go over here. Yeah, over here I have laser. How come I don't have laser here? Oh, hold on. Did I turn it off? It's on. Plug it into the wall. But it could be that the battery died. No. It's on. Oh, here's laser. Here's laser. Okay. Shvacha laser? Who said Shvacha laser? Laser. Okay. You have two brothers right here. You see on top it says brothers. I'm going to try to stay consistent for the rest of Masechta. This shows brothers right over here. Okay. So you have Reuven on the left. He really should be on the right. From now on, we're going to fine. Shimon is on the left. Reuven is married to Mazal right over here. And we're going to call her for now Rishayna. Doesn't matter. And then Shimon is also married. At the same time, he married the Bat Ayin lady. She's Shni in the Mishnah. Okay. Step two is that Reuven, who's in Dubai right now, he goes bye-bye. Goes to Dubai. Dubai-bye. So, that's step two. Now what happens? After step two, this little guy is born. That's one way we already discussed this case in depth. There's another way that there's Yibum and then he's born. But this Mishnah says, step three is, little Yisachar is born. So since Yisachar wasn't in this world when these two guys were married, he's called, right over here, Eishes Ach Shalei Haya Ba'ir Lamai. Right over here, you probably can't see it because I can't see it. But Eishes Ach Shalei Ba'ir Lamai. She is a wife of a brother who wasn't around when he was alive. He was born after the death of his brother. Therefore, Mazal becomes what? Erva. What is she called? What Isser does this little guy have to marry her? Eishesach. The original Isser of marrying a sister-in-law remains. The whole only time you have a head to marry the sister-in-law after the brother dies is if he's alive during the brother's life. But it didn't happen. So, these two guys, you see the red arrow, this red thing going here on the three, that means Aser. Green means Mutter, this is Aser. This little guy cannot marry. But then what happens is, Shimon is miyabim her. You see the green right over here, the green, 4. He is permitted to be miyabim Mazal. You see this little Mazal over here? That's because she goes from being Reuven's wife to being Shimon's wife. He's miyabim her. Unfortunately, he goes bye-bye. Step number 5. But Shimon was married to this lady also, a co-wife. Batayin. He's married to 2 women. So you would think that after Shimon dies, or bye-bye, this little guy should be miyabim batayin. But he can't. Why? He goes, look at this. There's an arrow here, and he bumps into the erva. He cannot marry Mazal forever and ever because she was loyhoya b'yolamai, and therefore he cannot marry Batayin, who's a tzara of the erva. She is the co-wife of an erva. Says the Mishnah inside. What's the case? There are 2 brothers. There's Reuven and Shimon, and one of them died. Reuven dies. And afterwards, little Yisach was born. Rashi calls him Levi. I can't do Levi because Levi is a different guy. He's a doctor that talks a lot before Share starts, whatever, all that. So then, so comes Shimon, and he takes Mazal as a wife, as a Yevamo, and then Vameis, and then Shimon goes bye-bye. The first one, we call Mazal now the first one, Harishayna. You see, I called her Rishayna right over here. So Rishayna, what's going on over here? Rishayna, he cannot be miyabim her because little guy was not in the world when she was actually married to little guy's brother Ruvain. Vashniya, then we go over here. Bat Ayin lady is Shniya, Mishum Tzarasa. She's the tzara, she's the co-wife of Mazal. So they're both potter when Shimon dies. Also by Maimer. What if Shimon right over here doesn't marry Mazal? This little Mazal over here was because he gave her money. He said, I want to marry you fully in a year from now. Right now I'm going to be Mekadesh you. Called, what is that called, Rabbi Isai? Maimer. He gives her money. So also by Maimer, he gives her money, he didn't really marry her. So halachically, Midaraisa did not marry. So Midaraisa, Bat Ayin is not a co-wife with Mazal. Only Midrabanan. Says Rashi, it's a Miktsas. Miktsas related. Miktsas meaning Midrabanan related. Theoretically, Midaraisa, you could be Miyabim Bat Ayin. But because there's the Rabbanan Kiddushin here, so they are co-wives Midrabanan. So Rabbanan said, Yisachar cannot marry either one of them. So what should he do? He can't just let them go and marry anybody in the street because Midaraisa, they cannot. So they require, Shniya requires a Chalitza, Bat Ayin gets Chalitza. Americans might not even understand what's going on here, Bat Ayin. But it's like a hippie type of woman. She has a knapsack, they're very fafrum. They say a lot of Tehillim. They have a funny whatever. But a hippie frum lady. Omar Rav Nachman. Mandatoni Rishoyna lo mishtabesh. Mandatoni Shniya lo mishtabesh. You want to call Mazal Shniya, call her whatever you want. You want to call her Rishoyna, call her Rishoyna. What's the difference? The Gemara explains it could fit in. The language can fit in. Mandatoni Shniya lo mishtabesh. Mandatoni Rishoyna lo mishtabesh. Sponsored by Moshe Steinberg, Shmuley Sugar, the original Sugar Shaker, sponsored by in honor of Ed Kinsbursky, Brian Kinsbursky, and Aaron Miller for learning the Daf. Amud Beis. Rishayna, she is the first one to fall to Yibam. She, when her husband Ruvain went bye-bye, she fell to Shimon. Later on, Shimon goes bye-bye, so Batayin also falls Libam. But first happened, case number 1. If you want and if you want to call her Shniya, she married Shimon. When did she marry Shimon? After Shimon married Bat Ayin. So she's Shimon's second marriage. Ask the Gemara, who told you? Why is that important to the case? Isn't it possible also that Shimon married her first and then he married Bat Ayin? And they're still co-wives of each other who cannot fall to Yisachar. Says Gemara, okay, fine. We're just talking about language here. It's possible that he first married Mazal and then he married Barayin. Yeah, you're right. It's her second marriage. First she was married to Reuven Mazal, and then Mazal married Shimon, so that we could call her Shniya. You want to call her Shniya, call her Shniya. Our Mishnah happens to call her, doesn't call her at all, calls the other one, Shnia, fine. Where do we see in the Torah such a concept? You see it on the chart. Or if you want to be more accurate, period. They sat together. They sat together. But the little guy, he wasn't there together. And then from the next word, Yachtov, what do we learn from? That they could inherit each other. So over here we learn Hatzlachah, that brothers are only brothers from a father. If they only share a mother, they're half brothers from a mother, they don't perform even. Why? Because a half brother from a mother doesn't inherit each other. If there's a problem, somebody dies, there's no inheritance. Inheritance goes from the father's side. If, let's say, there's no father, then there's no children, the brothers get it. So they inherit each other. Yachtov is a lashon of yichud, of that they're together in nachla. We learn it from Yaakov Avinu. Look at the pasuk on the chart. Okay, there's another pasuk. There's two psukim. Bottom line is that they're called brothers, and all 12 of them we know had the same father. So you see that being a brother must have the same father. It says in the pasuk, B'nei Avinu. So we learn, look at the Gzeir Shava. By Yibum it says the word Achim, and by Yaakov Avinu's sons it says Achim. So it's Achva, it's Gzeir Shava. By Yaakov Avinu they didn't share the same mother, as we know. Avkam and Av. As says the Gemara of Achva Ma'arayas. There's another pasuk that says, if I can find my wheel, this is easier. That's by Erva. The famous pasuk by Eishes Achicha, that's what we're talking about. Your brother's wife. And over there, it also means your brother from a mother. When it comes to Arayas, there's no difference between a mother and a father. If you share a mother, you can't marry your sister-in-law from a mother either. If your brother's from a mother, you can't marry his wife, the sister-in-law. So why don't we learn from there to Yibum that a brother from a mother could perform Yibum? Says Gemara, Donam Achim, Mi Achim. Look, are those words the same? No. One is Achim, one is Achicha. And over here, the words are the same. Achim, Achim. I'd much rather learn two words that are the same. Says Gemara, but what's the difference? It means the same thing. Achicha means a brother, and Achim means a brothers. So what's the difference? There's a very famous sugya. It's 11 times in Shas. We already had it from the beginning of Shas twice. That the Torah, the Gemara learns, Torah is telling us that when it comes to the tzaras, neged tzaras in a house, if a brick has an affliction, you remove the brick, you put a new brick, then it comes 1 week, 2 weeks. We learn halachas from the first week to the second week based on two words. We do Gzeir Shava, they're not even the same. Forget about Achim and Ochicha. One says Shav, one says Ba. One means return, one means to come. But it means the same thing. Kindness, going to the house. So, but it's a completely different word. Coming and returning are two different words. Yet, I can learn Gzeir Shava like that. You're right. In that pasuk, in those psukim of Gzeir Shava, there's no better word. So we compare two words that don't match. They mean the same, they don't match. But over here, that I have a choice of learning Achim of Yibum from Arayas, and to tell me that it's from a mother also, or Achim from Yaakov Avinu, which the words are identical, I much rather learn from the identical words if I have that option. Says Gemara Ballerena, Achva Meloit. Let's learn from Loit. It says the exact word Achim. And what do I want to learn from Loit? That what? Loit was related how? Through father. So that's exactly what we're learning, no? No, but we want to learn that a nephew could be miyabim his aunt. Because Loit was a nephew. So let's learn Achim. So we learned many times when it comes to Gzeir Shava, you need an extra word, and when you have that extra word that's completely extra, it tells you the Gzeir Shava is so powerful you can't You can't refute it. So there's an extra word by Yaakov. There's no need to put in the word Achim. We're all from the same father, meaning we're brothers. So the word is completely extra. So that gives us extra power, extra word that gives us more power to our Gzeres Shava, where we don't have that really by light. Although the Gemara says we might have it. Says Gemara, because we had the man, the Omar Rabbah, who comes along and says, I have a Gzeres Shava, he learns it from Yaakov, I learn it from Gzeres Shava. At the end of the day, why do I need both? Says Gemara, maybe I should learn from light. Maybe you'll say there's no extra word by light. There is extra word. It should have said, instead of Achim, it should have said Reim, friends. The Rishonim discussed it already. It's not the same meaning. It's come to tell us that's extra. They must, over here it means a little different. They both inherit the same person, whereas a nephew never inherits the same person with an uncle. They might inherit the same person, but they don't come from the same vantage point. One is inheriting as a son, one is inheriting as a son of a son, but never as a nephew. Because if it's a Yachtov, maybe the only way you do Yibum is if they share the same father and mother. Tzricha. All they need to share is one father. Why would I ever think that you need to share a father and a mother? When it comes to, look at this pasuk. And the Gemara is going to tell us that it means the oldest brother should perform Yibum. He gets all of the brother's inheritance. The one who performs Yibum, I mentioned, I think, in day 1 of Yevamos. The Ramah brings that there's a minhag sort of, that the one that performs Chalitza, he gets 50% of the inheritance. Makes a big difference. And who gets to do it? Let's say the guy's a gazillionaire. He's worth $100 million. All the brothers scrounge. Let her take off my shoe. What do I care? I don't have to marry her. I'll get $50 million. The oldest brother gets to do it. Says the Gemara. It says in the pasuk. You see over here that Yibum has to do with inheritance. And inheritance means you don't need a mother. Maybe the whole entire thing is a big chiddush that the Torah allows you to have relations with your own sister-in-law, which typically it's awesome. We know you can't do it if you're just a brother from a mother. You have to be a brother from a father. So maybe it has to be a brother from a father and a mother. Maybe let's go extreme. It has to be a real relationship. Tzricha. Should we start the sugi? Let's start the sugi. We have no choice. Omar Avuna. Omar Rav. Shemeres Yavam Shemesa Mutar Bi'ima. So here, for the very first time, we're going to see the idea of Zika brought in the Gemara. Before we saw it in Rashi. Now the Gemara mentions it for the very first time. Shemeres Yavam. If we just take a simple picture like this, you have 2 brothers, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is married to Rachel, and Reuven goes bye-bye. What does Shimon do right now? He's on vacation, he's busy, he doesn't know, he has to make up his mind. She wasn't so normal that one time he met her. Yes, maybe not. What is she called? Shemeres Yavam. She's dangling. She can't marry anybody else. What's going on right now? Is there a connection between the two or not? Now let me show you real quickly. I brought my Zika kit here. It's not nothing fancy. I just l'saber sa'ozen. We have over here, because we're not late at all. We have over here the Yavam. Actually, this is not good. Okay, forget this. But we're not going to forget it. Pretend this guy didn't go bye-bye. This is the Yavam. So it's very corny. But in Hebrew, this is called Azikon. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put this through them like this. I'll show you in a second why it's not negir to us. So if he's a Yavam and he's not doing anything, that's it. There's a Zika going on. You see, they're connected somewhat. They're bound together. But the way to get this off, and I don't want to do it right now because it's late. If you remove your shoe, there's a way to do it. You could, look, this is impossible. This is like, this is how they arrest people, right? But if you put a shoe here, Where's your shoe? I have. Let's say this is a shoe. This is a shoe. You take this and you go like this, and it comes apart. That's how you take away Zika. That's one way to do it. Now, there's a shayla whether or not there's Zika b'chlal. What is Zika and what does it do? If there is Zika, what can't this guy do? Could this guy marry this woman's mother? Right now, he didn't do yibum, nothing. All that happened is that his brother went bye-bye, and now they're zakuk together, they have a bond. Could he go ahead and marry the mother or not? Maybe there's no Zika. Maybe he could marry the mother. Maybe there's another reason why he can't marry the mother. You know what that reason is? The reason is that if this guy marries her mother, could he ever marry her? Absolutely not. It's a mother and a daughter. And what is he doing? He's mevatel the mitzvah of yibum. He's getting rid of the mitzvah of yibum. And that's awesome. You're not allowed to be mevatel the mitzvah. Says the Gemara inside Rav. If this woman who's waiting for this guy to make up his mind and do yibum, if she dies, mutter b'ima, then he could marry the mother. Alma kasavar ein zika. You see from here that he doesn't hold that there's a bond. This doesn't exist according to him. Why? Because if there was a bond, they're like somewhat married, then how could he ever marry this woman's mother? They were married together. They didn't finish up what they had to do. They didn't do yibum, but there was a zika. The Torah put them together. So you see from here, he holds no zika. So just tell me straight out. Why do you have to tell me a whole case? Shemeris, Yovim, this and that. Just say, I hold ein zika, and I understand what you're talking about. I understand. You're allowed to marry this woman's mother. So if you look at this case right over here, look at the chart. If there's 3 Baldwin brothers, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, and there's 2 sisters, there's a case later on we're going to get to in Daf Mem, and Reuven goes bye-bye, comes Levi, and for no good reason he decides to be Mekadesh Rachel's sister. You see those 2 sisters? What happens? Since Rachel has a Zika to Levi, Rachel fell to Levi. You hear Judah? I see Mamish in tent. Levi should do something with Rachel. He should give her chalitza, he should do yibum. But there's 2 brothers. Maybe she goes to Shimon, not to Levi. How strong is it? So the machlokes is what happens with Leah. Says the Gemara, I would think that whole problem is when there's 2. And when there's 2 brothers, Levi and Shimon, that could take care of Rachel. So put the burden on Shimon. And Levi can marry the sister. It's not a problem, maybe in that case. But if Levi didn't exist, it's only Shimon, then it's so strong, the bond between Rachel and Shimon, that Leah doesn't exist. You can't marry her, you can't do anything with her. I would think that. So then say, so be very specific. Say, there's 0 zika, even when there's only 1 brother that's so strong. I would think it's only when they're alive, and I'm telling you that even when they're alive, this doesn't exist. Why? We'll go over it tomorrow a little bit more, but the idea we get. Have a wonderful day.